Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb. And today, after a 2-year absence, I'm absolutely delighted to be back in the Bay of Reykjavik with GK from Lucinity. GK, long time no speak. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic, Toby, and just happy to be with you here today again.
Absolutely. Well, we were reminiscing beforehand. I think it was we recorded both in 2020 and 2021. It's been a couple of years since we last caught up, but I've been watching the business continue to grow. I've missed that backdrop, one of the best backdrops I've seen of everyone who I've been speaking to, and I know we'll see the daylight gradually disappear over there, I'm sure, during the over the next half hour or so as we're talking. But the Lucinity story is absolutely exceptional. You've been doing a great job. I know and remember our last conversations, just how passionate you were about the cause of the business and the purpose of what you're doing. So we'll get into that a little bit more. We're going to talk about the sort of, I guess the words that are on everyone's lips over the last couple of years, which is generative AI, and how you pulled that into what you're doing. I love the fact that two of my favorite words are going to be used here again, which is about efficiency and productivity, two of the things which I know you guys pride yourselves on. We'll talk a little bit about the future landscape of both the company and the sector itself. And we'll finish off with the sort of unique positioning that you guys have, not least of which on with a view of that bay, but I'm imagining more a little bit about the market and where you guys fit into it. So loads and loads of cool stuff to be talking about today. But GK, give us a little bit of intro for those who can't cast their mind back 2 years to you and the business and what you've been up to over that time.
Absolutely. So we at Lucinity, what we pride ourselves of doing is basically taking traditional AML processes from hours upon hours down to minutes. So the way that we do that is, of course, using a lot of clever design, but more importantly, what we call augmented intelligence or human AI, AI that assists humans in the process of taking just smarter, faster decisions. So I know that there's a lot of words in there, but in the end of the day is how we can take a case or a alert review and do it just much faster through the lens of AI.
Understood perfectly. And with regards to the business itself, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when last we spoke, the business was moving at great pace. I know you're really proud of some of the things which you've been seeing. It was growing domestically over in Iceland, but also across Europe and beyond. I think you were moving out to the States at that sort of stage from memory, or certainly starting to have some
more in the UK though.
Yeah.
More in the UK and into Scandinavia.
There we go. So tell me a little bit about what's happened and how the business has matured over the last couple of years, what it's been like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that we have seen a lot of change in the last 2 years. We've seen kind of like a mini financial crisis going on in FinTechs and everything like that, but also never more need for efficiency and financial crime prevention. So we have on one hand we have seen a crisis in kind of like the industry that we serve and we are working on protecting, but also an influx in financial crime and terrorist activity and others that just calls for more and more work for our heroes that are the people that are working within the banks to actually protect us and report to the regulators in as efficient as they may. So all the things that we also just see is that I think that there's a general awakening for a technology. So I think that over the last 5 years, and believe it or not, Lucinity is now five years old. I look back at it when I started the company, and I was kind of talking about augmented intelligence, and generative AI wasn't really a term back then, and people were kind of like, yeah, but I just want to reduce false positive, and we in Lucinity we were always like, yeah, but what if you could actually speed up the review process of all of this false positive? Then actually you could still protect your foundational systems, but you can get the value that you're so seeking out of the reduction of false positives. And I think that there is a general awakening over the last, I would say, a year year and a half with the release of ChatGPT and all the generative AI components, that there is another way to actually fight financial crime than just, let's detect more and reduce false positives.
And that creates a great sort of opportunity for the business to sort of scale and grow. So, yeah, as you said, look, you've navigated some interesting times. I mean, when we first started speaking, the business was only months old as opposed to years old, and you were living through a crisis at that sort of stage where we were right in the midst of the pandemic. You've come through that. We went through this phase of rapid growth. As you say, there's this perfect storm at the same sort of time for where you serve.
Yeah.
We saw probably 2022 and 2023 as the crazy years in terms of massive growth within the fintech sector, and an arms race for talent and all that sort of stuff. And then 2023 has obviously been, as you say, a mini financial crisis within the sector. So tell me about what it's meant for the business, physically the business. What's the outlook now like within its size, shape, etc.? How's it been?
So I described it actually to my board the other day. And let's open up about something that we were talking on the board. It was, I've never been as excited about the year as 2024.
Yeah.
So and I mean that of course there is a lot of worries in the world politics and everything like that. But as an AML business that is created to help banks actually do an incredible job at protecting society. Then I think that 2024 and 2025 and beyond, we will see a radical change in that fight. And of course, being at the forefront of kind of like this generative AI wave into that segment, I think that 2023 was a year of awakening. And 2024 and 5 is a year of execution, and a lot of change in the way that people within those financial fintechs and large fintechs and banks, etc., can actually finally get tools that are designed to help them with the investigation and with the processes and everything that they need to do to stay compliant, but also be effective at the same time. And that's why I'm so excited about this year, that there's a general belief that technology can change the world now. And I think that a lot of us were basically flagging the flag before. Yeah, believe us, technology can change the world, but now the belief is here.
Absolutely, yeah, it's that movement, isn't there? From I believe that people sort of have heard a lot about AI over the years. Generative AI, sort of burst onto the scene, I guess. What would you say, back end of 2022, where we saw ChatGPT really sort of enter the sort of general sort of public's domain and such like, and last year it was probably the biggest word at every event I went to in financial technology. Everyone's talking about it. Every person I've had on the show has had their thoughts and their twists on generative AI and how it can work.
And the difference is, a lot of people are talking about it. We have been doing it.
That's right. That's exactly what I was going to say.
And I founded this company around this notion. Of course, it was called augmented intelligence, and I still call it augmented intelligence because I feel it's the correct term of actually using AI to augment the human abilities.
Yeah.
But the difference is that we basically were doing it, and this is why for example, I'm very proud that Gartner named us a cool vendor last year.
Saw this, yeah.
And this is also why this is cool, is because we were only 3 vendors in the entire banking space named actually as a generative AI cool vendor. Not in compliance, in banking.
I love that, and I love the fact that you'd always said we were always cool as well when you released that information. So cool before your time. But that's brilliant to see, and Gartner's no chumps when it comes to picking out the right sort of business to be talking about. So to be 3 in the whole of that space is incredible, and sort of very in line with your sort of growth and the PR that I've read about your business all the way through the last 5 years or so, as I've been sort of following the journey. Speaking, you mentioned exactly the right thing there about people talking about generative AI and actually other people who are living it. One of the things I think was, whilst everyone had it on their lips, there were people there who were able to utilize it and derive real value for their customers on the basis of it. But the biggest thing that I felt held some people back, and actually on the end user side of it, so the banking side themselves and the financial institutional side, was there was an element of suspicion still around, you know, its use case, and was it going to be tight enough, and was it going to be good enough, and yeah, we know it's not the most it doesn't throw itself at change all the time, does it, the financial services industry? And it needs to be convinced. And a good friend of mine who's a fairly senior banker once talked about the concept of the difficulty with AI is about it being approximately right. And when you've got all of the issues and the implications of it there, approximate is never really good enough. I think he's missing the point a little bit about on that, in my view. And actually, you know, it's that you mentioned it there, the augmentation aspect of man and machine working together. That's where the magic starts with generative AI, right? Tell me a little bit about what you're doing about that and what it looks like, and why, yeah, why Gartner are calling you so cool.
Yeah. So we have been 5 years at this, because it takes a lot to actually build a proper banking enterprise system. So of course we were lucky enough to start you know, basically year 1.5 into the business to actually co-build the platform with one of the largest tier ones in the world, and we are a platform that is in use in a huge organization with thousands of users. So and the reason why we did that was because, you know, in order to be a generative AI or augmented intelligence AI solution for a large bank like this, or just enterprise banks, you need to have basic foundational things in order. So number one, you know, I sometimes call it the boring stuff. And you need to have the auditing correctly of when you do stuff. It needs to be able to recall who did it and why they did it, etc. You need to have the right case procedures, the alert procedures, etc., etc. You need to have the right security. So then let's go back to generative AI. You know, we now have those basic elements, and what we started off actually about 4 years ago, we started to build Lucy as a decision engine, making so thinking about, you know, hey, I have this task, and can maybe an AI take a look at this task and make a decision whether or not to recommend something to the user or not. And that just evolved into actually Lucy that it is today, which is you can chat to it, you can ask it to do stuff for you. Hey, you know, you can say to Lucy, hey, can you search the internet for me and actually read all of the articles about X, Y, and Z? Can you go into those internal systems and maybe do this this for me? Or actually, we can programmatically say to the system of, when you see this, just do this for the user, and then the user needs to do it. Then the user actually sees the result of it. So it's about this element of being able to have this manual system, you know, the old boring enterprise case management system that has it all, but then being able to automate always a tiny piece of actually the work through the lens of generative AI, and then you just automate more and more and more and more and more. And this is why banks and organizations trust us, because we're not going in there and saying, hey, here is Lucy. This is an automatic pilot that you just need to plug on top of everything, close your eyes and hope it actually drives the right way. You're always in control. And that is how actually we designed everything from the get-go. Be compliant, you're in control, you tell us, their user, what actually you would want to use Lucy for, and then you can talk to Lucy and ask it to do it. On the, you know, hallucination part, etc., etc. Well, we are not actually using generative AI to read poems or write poems, or we're not actually creating stories. We use generative AI to summarize specific data points and use the power of language to explain certain things that we have already laid out in the foundational knowledge that is already in the system. So we use kind of like use this language that everyone associates with generative AI as kind of like just a translation layer from the end AI state, it's kind of like numbers, etc., into like, hey, explaining little things at a time. And because we're using it in such a limited fashion today, we're not seeing hallucinations. We are basically seeing that that we use these generative features to extremely to the point explain a point thing, and therefore we are not seeing the scariness of like write a poem for me. Number 4, we control completely Lucy. We built it from the ground up, and this is why we have been 4 years in building this, or 4 or 5. So when it comes to AI safety, we built it in from the get-go. So a lot of the work that has gone into the last 2 years was around being accurate and making sure that the human is in control and human is in the loop. And when actually Lucy generates a response, it is always reviewed by a human, and it sees where the source data comes from.
It's fascinating that, and I love that sort of the way you've looked at it, the way you built it, and this the fact that this is something there which has always been the sort of vision for you guys. And I think there's a lot of people who've jumped onto bandwagons, and there's been a lot of people who've been on the bandwagon from the from the very start of it, which is where you guys sit. We were speaking beforehand and trying to find the sort of right terminology around the sort of pressure, I guess, from the whole of it, the whole of the financial services, but I think actually the wider economy across the globe. We are in a global productivity crisis at the moment. We have ever increasing costs and pressures and margin pressures, and we have a lot of focus on increasing efficiency, making everything easier for people through this, through the input of technology. And also, when you can only save so much money, you need to make more, right? So that's about driving productivity. And I think that is very much at the heart of your business. I mean, other than the fact of obviously sort of pioneering wider ethos of ridding the world of financial crime, etc. But beyond that, it's about making sure that your business is increasing that, enabling people to do more, enabling people to get to double their productivity and increase their efficiencies in doing that. Tell me a little bit about how that sort of comes through from Lucinity.
So I'm going to be very blunt here. We're running out of people to operate the AML and fraud systems. And that's a scary thought, that actually we can't hire enough, or banks and financial institutions and the entities that actually are supposed to be monitoring for it. They're running out of people to actually operate it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree with that.
Yeah. What I mean by that is, let's take a look at the cost of AML and KYC and so on when I started the business. Then IBM and I think it was McKinsey put out a report that it cost the world $150 billion to operate AML and fraud and KYC that in 2018. This figure this year is probably going to go well north of 300 billion, and it was 274 billion last year according to LexisNexis. So, and roughly half of that are humans in the loop. And the biggest increase of cost is actually that we need to hire more people to operate the system. So inherently, the detection system is flawed. So we put a lot of strain on the banks and financial institutions to be very transparent, and regulators do that for good reasons. And that means that there's a lot of rules getting a lot of noise into AML teams and fraud teams, etc. But then the problem begins when you start to apply. One more thing there. There's a lot of noise being generated into level 1 from these detection systems. And then we have a lot of people looking at that noise and saying probably 95 to 99% of all of those alerts go then be closed right away, just as BS. And then basically 1 to 5% goes on to level 2, which is deep investigation into this matter before it's reported to a regulator. But the problem begins then, again, when you apply AI to this. So AI, you're able to actually reduce false positive massively, probably in the range of 7 to 90%. But but when I talk, and I saw this in my prior life, etc., and when I talk to big banks and financial institutions that apply real AI to actually the detection problem, what is the second problem that happens? Well, you actually find more real money laundering. So you actually need to investigate a whole lot of more clients.
You open up a bigger door.
Yeah, you actually need more investigation time of level 2. So actually you end up having a cost crisis, because by applying AI to detection, you increase your overall operation cost as a bank. Of course, you're doing better for the society, so that is fantastic. But why does it need to be like that? Because we have now AI tools like generative AI, augmented intelligence, and softwares like Lucinity that speeds up actually the level 2 and the level 1 into a fashion where you could actually make a better AML detection system and a better fraud detection system, and then have AI on the user end that actually speeds it so much up that you can actually do more with the same team or a little bit of a smaller team. So for the first time, this generative AI area and systems like Lucinity are able to give banks hope to be able to transfer themselves from just like noise generating AML system into a proper AI systems with a proper operating system on top of it that will then have much more better proper SAR reports. And let's talk about SAR reports. A lot of our clients or actually when we talk about with prosecutors, and I was in a meeting the other day with ex-US prosecutors, and they said, when I read SAR reports, oh my God, I have nightmares about it. Because Toby, have you seen SAR reports? The end result of it.
I haven't seen it, but I understand where it comes from. Yeah.
So the reports are, this is the client, here are the transactions, and this transaction is here, and you need to report it. And then you need to summarize in actually a text of what you saw as an institution and why you saw it, why you're reporting it, etc., etc. And these prosecutors, and this was in the US, they said one of the worst thing about this is that often it's all caps and a lot of spelling mistakes. Okay, have you read actually all caps with a lot of spelling mistakes? And I went like, no, but I'm dyslexic and I wouldn't actually know. But think about this: if we are able to have a system that just works on that and generates much more cleaner SAR reports, SAR write-ups, that write it actually properly with actually the proper input in a consistent fashion, then you're able to create this flow through the banks that are much more efficient and report the matters much more in a cleaner fashion to actually the regulators. So the regulators will be happier, the bank operators will be happier, the people that were working in the AML and fraud and so on will be happier, and overall it will contribute to a better, healthier, cheaper system to run. And maybe then we can take this 300 billion, which is a tax on actually us that we pay through actually fees to the banks, and maybe half that over the next 10 years.
Wow. So that's significant. We're talking about significant opportunities here to improve the ecosystem. And look, I know we were talking beforehand about what this sort of looked like and the sort of implications here. So if we sort of cast our mind into the future and bring out the crystal ball here, we've got two things we're looking at. One of which is, there is an extraordinary sort of growth in your business over that sort of 5-year period that we've been in here. The next couple, you say you've never been more excited about 2024. And I imagine that sort of spills into 2025 as well. So tell me a little bit about what the future holds for the business. But I'm also really keen about when you're talking about that sort of level of efficiency and a changing of the guard in this space. What does it actually look like for the industry as well? What can we expect to see as some of the key trends over the next couple of years to really drive this further forward? What are you hoping for in the market?
Yeah, so I think that when I look at 25 and beyond, then it's a era of automation. What I mean that is auto decisioning in a lot of places, and bringing humans into the loop when they need to be in the loop. And the humans as the oversight of the system, instead of having, it's kind of like the vice versa, that who is overseeing the system. It's kind of like the humans are a clock in the operating system, and I think that in 2025 we'll start to see actually that changing into humans being more of the oversight rather than kind of like the clock. So that's a very, very positive thing for society, because that will streamline everything and make it just much more cheaper to operate. But we're seeing a lot of steps, and both with Lucinity and other providers, towards this, in this notion of co-pilots. So we borrowed kind of like the name of the co-pilot from Microsoft. As Microsoft work very hand in hand, actually, both in sharing technology as well as we help each other out in this fight for the customers. So 2024 is this year of execution, where 2023 was to build, actually, do I dare to do it? Now I'm seeing the first dips into, I dare into the co-pilot era, and 2026 and 5 and is actually full execution speed ahead, and reaping the benefits of actually the generative AI revolution.
And that's where you think it will really fit in. So 2025, 26 is where you'll see the real benefits of the revolution come into action.
You don't need to wait to 2025 and 6 to get the benefits. But we're seeing exponential more benefits in 2025 and 6 if you put the right platforms in place, which is the Lucinity platform. In 2024, you start the journey now, but then 2025, 6, 7, you will see much more automation and much more AI in a much more transparent way, etc. So, but if you're going to want to reap the benefit, you need to start now.
Yeah, it's so exciting, isn't it? And I absolutely agree with you. I think there'll be people there who are, we've already had the early adopters, and then we'll start to see, move through the things to laggards, etc. This, to me, is one of those sort of golden opportunities where people, if they're left behind, they're going to get left behind by a demonstrable distance at the end of that as well. Okay, so we mentioned beforehand about this sort of business, and as I say, I've always been super impressed with what you've done and where it's been. It's been one of those really, really interesting companies to see grow and develop as you have over the last few years. But let's look a little bit about that sort of positioning and why you guys have done well. So we mentioned at the offset, we've sort of alluded to it at various different stages beforehand, but Lucinity is uniquely positioned to sort of take advantage of this sort of play. I'm imagining it becomes down to the fact that this is it's native to what you guys have always started off and doing. But allude a little bit more to it. Why do you think you are so well placed at the moment in the marketplace?
So I think, of course, we have a good foundation. We're doing this to help banks make money good. So that's number 2. But then it's 3 things: boring, design, AI. And those 3 words. And of course, these are not our marketing words. But when we're talking internally, we know that we need to be boring. Meaning that we need the foundational aspect in place. And we're not just yet another startup that is putting spaghetti on the wall. We actually built for enterprise.
Yeah.
Number two, we have design at our core. So, and you notice that I put AI in the third bucket.
Yeah.
And because design, we need to design for the user first.
Yeah.
And then we actually solve the problem. And the way, and design is not just about, you know, a pretty little button that is blue or something like that. It's about, you know, having to think about how it is the easiest for a human to consume information. So there is a lot of trend and a lot of providers to just put a lot on the screen. But we take a lot of thinking into what should we remove from screens. Because every data point that you add, if they're variable, adds approximately 15 to 45 and upwards of many minutes to actually your cognitive load when you're reviewing something.
This goes. This. Sorry to interrupt, but this goes back to the very thinking of Sergey Brin and you know, when they first started Google, wasn't it? It's how could they make that? They obsessed about making that first page as fewer words and as simple as possible. And it sort of carried on narrowing down until you see it where it is today. That's, you know, that is the digital experience of what people expect in everyday lives because of what happens in their in their business life, because of what happens in their everyday lives as well, right?
It is. And it's natural. If you throw a lot of data, if you throw an Excel sheet at us, like, you know, a lot of the legacy providers do, you just have a cognitive overload, and you start to go, okay, I'm going to start there, and I'm going to develop my own procedure of how I'm going to do it. And this is why we obsess so much about design. And it's AI, and that's kind of like the toolbox that we have to solve a lot of the problems that the human needs to do usually, or the user. So those are the three key elements of why we are different, because we think about the foundation stuff, we think about design, and we're always thinking about what technologies we should bring in to solve a problem, not a technology that hopefully solves a problem.
Yeah, I think it's so relevant, isn't it? And yeah, my view on is there's some wonderful software out there. There's some people there who are doing incredible things to solve incredibly complex problems as easy as possible. But with that design piece, it sort of really shouted out to me, because I think that there is, you know, if I think, you know, even in my business and the amount of different technology we have now compared to when I first started in the industry 25 years ago, is I still think that there is such a small amount of utilization of the potential of the technology that people use within it, because it gets so overcomplicated. And the best technology that I've seen is where it becomes as simple as possible and is as user-friendly as possible, and gives people the opportunity to utilize the whole power of what they're doing. And for me, that simplification piece, you know, comes to the very core, and it seems to be something there which you've invested an awful lot of time, thought, and credo into.
And let's go back to ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is one of my favorite technology of all time. Reason being was it managed to explain the reason for Lucinity so well, actually, to the world. And what did they do? They simply created the user interface that was so simple, and you enjoyed having a conversation with. You know, but if you think about the technology behind, how complex it is. Did they do anything to explain it to us of how actually AI, all of the neural networks and the generative AI you know, is done, and showing all of the variables that you need to actually to generate this? No, they simply just wrote it out.
Yeah.
And this human interaction is why ChatGPT is so marvelous. And that is what we're trying to do for the enterprises. Use this marvelous technology in a simple manner to help you simply make smarter, faster decisions.
Smarter, faster decisions are always good decisions when you can put it into that sort of complex context. And look, I've loved catching up on this. It's so great to see a business there that's sort of as focused and as purpose-led as you are. I know it's a massive passion of yours. I go back to the original times that we spoke, and I know how important the work that you're doing is. It's not just another thing where you're making another software to make some more money. This is at the core of human decency as much as anything else, and solving a really important problem. But what I love most about it is just this commitment to making the product as useful as it possibly can be. And when you've got a business there that's focused on speed and efficiency and productivity and putting all those things, you're only going one way as far as I'm concerned as a business. And I've loved seeing the accolades and the respects and the awards and the recognition that you guys have been getting with the business. So GK, keep it up. Let's not leave it a couple of years next time. I want to keep on doing these and finding out more and more about the business. But for those of you who have listened to this and say that this is cool and they want to find out a little bit more, tell me what's the best way for them to reach out for you.
So just send me an email, gk@lucinity.com, or just go to our website and reach out.
It is always a pleasure, sir. I'm glad we managed to keep a little bit of lighting. It's not done its full justice with that view behind you, but one of the most spectacular views in all the offices I speak to. It's always a pleasure, sir. Thanks so much for coming on the show again today.
Thank you so much, Toby.
And thank you all for watching. We will see you soon on another episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.